You want to know the funniest part about all this? You didn't even do anything wrong. You gave. You stayed. You tried. You showed up when nobody else did. You picked up your phone when theirs stayed on silent. You listened when your mind was screaming. You gave your time, your loyalty, your heart, and they walked away like it was nothing. And now you sit here, wondering why it hurts so damn much. Let me tell you why. It's 'cause you mattered, but only to the wrong people. And now, you're the one bleeding while they smile like they didn't just kill something rare. That's the problem with being real in a world full of masks. You keep it 100, and they keep receipts. You love deeply, and they love temporarily. You mean what you say, and they say what they need. Then suddenly, boom, silence, distance, excuses. They ain't busy, they're just not invested. And the part that rips you in half is knowing that they'll miss you. But only after you stop caring. Only when your name becomes a ghost they can't shake off in the quiet. But right now, they laugh, they joke, they forget. So what do, huh? You sit around, you replay every convo, every smile, every "I'm here for you." You think it's you. You think maybe if you were colder, louder, richer, funnier, prettier, maybe then they would have stayed. Nah. See, the truth is brutal. They were never ready for someone like you. Someone who doesn't play. Someone who sees through the lies but stays loyal anyway. You weren't too much. You were too real for the fantasy they were pretending to live. Let me tell you what most people won't. Silence is more powerful than any argument. It's more painful than any goodbye. You want to make them miss you? You don't scream. You don't beg. You vanish. Quiet. Cold. Calculated. You don't block them, no, you let them watch. Let them see what they lost. Let them feel that void. 'Cause it ain't just your presence they'll miss. It's your energy. That peace you brought when everything was chaos. That care you gave when no one else would. That love you handed out like it was free, when it was actually gold. People always think they've got options, till the options go silent. They think you'll always be there till one day. You're not. That's when it hits. That's when the memories turn to regrets. When your name tastes like ash in their mouth. That's when the message drafts stay unsent, and the pictures sting like open wounds. But by then, too late. You've changed. You've hardened. You've learned. And now, you don't need closure. You are the closure. You ever seen how people react when the clown stops laughing? When the one who gave the most goes mute? It's like they don't know what to do. Confusion, panic, regret. Oh, but they'll pretend. I'm fine. I don't care. Lies. All of it. Deep down, they're checking your story at 2 a.m., reading old texts, hearing your voice in songs, but they'll never admit it. Pride, ego, cowardice, the usual suspects. Let them drown in it. You don't chase, You replace. You rebuild. You get better, stronger, not to prove anything to them. Hell no. You do it for you. Because the comeback isn't for the crowd. It's for the silence. For every night you cried alone. For every time you begged God for a sign. For every time you gave love and got emptiness in return. That's why you rise. That's why you disappear. Not for revenge, not for games, but for healing. And let me tell you something cold, but true. You don't even need them to miss you anymore. Once you see your worth, their absence stops hurting. You don't want them back. You want you back. That version of you before they made you question your light. Before you dimmed yourself to keep them comfortable. Before you begged someone to see value in what was already priceless. That's the real goal, not revenge, not a text at midnight. Peace. The kind of peace that leaves people wondering if they ever knew you at all. Because the final punchline, you're not the one who lost. They are. You gave them something rare, raw, real, and they treated it like it was replaceable. Now, let them sit with that. Let them scroll. Let them wonder. Let them miss you in silence. But don't you ever go back. You outgrew them the moment they thought they could do better than someone who would have walked through fire just to see them smile. Keep your distance. Keep your focus. Keep your dignity. That's how you make them miss you. You know what really messes them up? It's not when you scream. It's not when you break down or spill your pain all over the floor. It's when you go quiet. That sudden silence, it hits harder than any word ever could. It starts slow. They don't notice it at first. They think you're just giving space, taking a break. They carry on, distracted, entertained by the chaos they chose over your calm. But then the days turn into weeks, and the absence begins to echo. They start reaching for their phone just to not see your name. They open chats hoping to feel something again, but your last message is still sitting there, like a tombstone. That's when it starts to burn. Not because you left, but because they know you left right. No drama, no begging, no scene, just silence. Cold, clean, dangerous. That's the kind of silence they never forget. The kind that turns memories into weapons and guilt into a prison. That's how you leave your mark. But don't get it twisted. They'll act unbothered. They'll fake smiles, post stories, flirt with people who don't even know their favorite color. But at night, when the phone dies and the music fades and the laughter turns into a lie, that's when they remember you. Not the version they created in their head to justify their choices. The real you. The one who stayed when everyone else gave up. The one who answered calls at 3 a.m. when their world was falling apart. The one who showed love without measuring it, like a paycheck. You weren't just a person. You were a safe place, and they let it go. For what? For attention? For a temporary high? For someone who wouldn't even pick up the pieces if they broke? Let me tell you something real, something raw. Most people won't appreciate a diamond if they're too used to picking up broken glass. You were too much because they were too little. You were too deep for their shallow world. And when someone's not ready for something rare, they ruin it and call it a burden. But that's not on you. That's on them. Your only mistake was loving beyond their capacity to receive. And trust me, one day they'll crave the version of you they couldn't handle. But by then, that version will be gone, evolved, scarred maybe, but smarter, quieter, colder, untouchable. Don't ever try to explain your worth to someone who couldn't see it. That's like handing glasses to someone who chooses to keep their eyes shut. Let them sit with the silence. Let them feel the weight of your absence. You ain't punishing them. You're protecting you. 'Cause when you keep handing yourself to people who don't value you, you start losing pieces of yourself you never get back. And eventually, you forget what it feels like to be whole. But the moment you stop chasing, you start healing. You start remembering who the hell you are. And you start moving like the storm they never saw coming. You want to make them miss you? Don't post sad quotes. Don't call when you're weak. Don't try to show you've moved on. Actually move on. In silence. In strength. In success. Become the version of yourself they'll have to hear about from others. The version they scroll past with shaking hands and a lump in their throat. The one they'll never have access to again. That's not revenge. That's growth. That's what real power looks like. Because truth is, people don't miss the loud exits. They miss the ones who left quietly and never came back. The ones who didn't give explanations. The ones who didn't play games. The ones who just disappeared. That's what haunts them. That's what breaks their pride and makes them spiral at 2 a.m, staring at the ceiling, wondering how they went from being your everything to being blocked, forgotten, and left behind. You don't need to get even. You need to get distant. And when that distance turns into silence, and that silence turns into absence, and that absence turns into legend, that's when they miss you. But don't come back. Never come back. They made their choice. Let them live with it. And you know what's brutal? What really tears them up inside? It's not your silence at first. It's when they realize the silence has become your new normal. When they realize you're not just pulling away to make a point. You're gone. Like truly, emotionally, mentally, gone. No more chances. No more loopholes. No more maybe if I say the right thing. You disconnected the wire. Flipped the switch. Walked out of the fire and never looked back. And that's the day they start crumbling piece by piece behind that fake smile, behind the I'm doing fine. Because deep down, they know what they did. They know what they destroyed. And every time they try to convince themselves that you didn't matter, that it was just a phase, a moment, a mistake, they hear your silence scream louder than their guilt can cover. That's the karma. That's the curse they carry. Losing someone they never deserved to begin with. People don't value peace until they're drowning in noise. They don't respect loyalty until they're surrounded by users. They don't recognize real love until they're left with hollow games and cold hearts. And that's the price of betrayal. They get to live in a world where everyone wears a mask and plays pretend, while the one person who was real is gone. You see, what you gave them was more than time. You gave them truth, something this world starves for. You gave them comfort, safety, honesty, consistency, things they didn't even know how to handle because they were too used to chaos. And what did they give you back? Confusion, distance, excuses, lies. Until finally your heart couldn't take the imbalance anymore, so it shut the door. And trust me, they'll revisit that door 1,000 times in their head, replaying the what ifs, the maybe if I'd just, but it won't matter. Because that door, it doesn't open the same way twice. Not for those who turned love into a weapon. Not for those who confused kindness with weakness. Not for those who took and never looked back to see what they were breaking. You see, you became too heavy for their lightweight world. You became too much because you were built different. So don't you dare sit around thinking you weren't enough. You were too much of the right thing for the wrong soul. But now it's about you, about building, about silence that speaks volumes, not to them, but to yourself. You don't make them miss you by chasing. You make them miss you by becoming someone they no longer have access to. You elevate, you improve. You take every scar and stitch it into armor. You take every betrayal and turn it into discipline. You take every breakdown and build it into a legacy, not out of spite, but out of necessity. Because the only apology worth hearing is the one they scream inside their head every time your name flashes through their memory. And don't think it'll be a one-time thing. Oh no, missing you doesn't come all at once. It's a slow, creeping poison. First it's a thought, then it's a dream, then it's a place you two went, a song, a smell, a memory that hits when they least expect it. And the worst part? You won't be there. You won't be reachable. You won't even flinch. Because you outgrew the stage, the scene, the script they kept trying to rehearse with a different cast. And the moment they realize they can't recreate what they had with you, that's when it all comes crashing. That's when regret sinks in so deep it drowns everything. But you'll be somewhere else, living, healing, building, becoming, not louder, quieter, not meaner, smarter. You'll move in silence, not to hide, but to protect. You'll trust less, not because you're cold, but because you've seen what fake love can do. And you'll love again, better, but this time with eyes open, with walls higher, with standards sharper than ever. Because now you know what you bring. Now you know what your peace is worth. And you'll never again offer it to someone who only shows up when it's convenient. Let them miss you. Let them sit in the silence they created. Let them remember the warmth they turned their back on. But don't you ever turn back. Keep going, because forward is the only direction that honors everything you survived. And here's the part they'll never admit. Not to you, not to themselves, not even when they're breaking down alone in the dark. They'll never say, I had something real and I ruined it. Their pride won't let them. So instead, they'll rewrite history in their head. They'll downplay you, pretend you were too clingy and too emotional, too much. It's easier that way. It saves their ego. But no matter how they spin the story, they'll never be able to unfeel what you made them feel. That comfort, that safety, that rare feeling like someone actually gets them without having to pretend. That's gone. And no matter how many people they try to replace you with, none of them will feel like home. Because you were home. You were the one who stayed when it was hard, the one who saw the flaws and still chose to care, the one who didn't ask for perfection, just effort. And they couldn't even give you that. You want to know why they come back months later? Why the ones who left always circle back? It's not love. It's not guilt. It's lack. They feel the absence, the gap you left behind. They go looking for you in everyone else, and they never find you. Because people like you don't show up twice. You were one of one. And that realization, it shatters them in silence. They don't tell their friends. They don't post it online. But it eats them alive. Every memory becomes a punch to the gut. Every laugh you shared becomes a ghost. And you're already gone, already building, already becoming, because that's the real flex. You moved on without bitterness. People always talk about moving in silence, but nobody tells you how lonely it is at first, how it aches, how it burns. But that's the price of evolution. You lose people. You shed skins. You bury old versions of yourself just to breathe again. And in that silence, you find you, the real you. Not the one shaped by their expectations, not the one constantly trying to prove your worth, but the one who's done chasing, the one who's done explaining, the one who knows that being unavailable is power, that being missed is a result of being unforgettable, not loud. And don't let the pain fool you. Healing doesn't always feel like progress. Sometimes it feels like hell, like every part of you is collapsing. But that's how you rebuild. That's how you rise. Not from applause, not from validation, but from the ashes of every version of yourself you had to kill just to survive. And when they see you again, when they hear your name in rooms they're not welcome in, they'll act like it doesn't faze them. But deep down, it does. Because you're no longer reachable, no longer fixable, no longer waiting. That's the real ending. Not rage, not revenge, just disappearance. You don't make them miss you by screaming, "Look what you lost." You make them miss you by being gone when they realize it, by being the one they took for granted and now can't get back. That's the kind of silence that breaks people, that haunts them, that teaches them lessons no words ever could. And while they're still looking back, hoping you'll return to the place they left you, you're already gone. So let them wonder. Let them scroll through old photos. Let them sit with the version of themselves that ruined something beautiful. Let the silence do what explanations never could, because you're not coming back. Not this time. You finally learned what they never did. How to walk away with dignity. And that, right there, that's how you make them miss you forever. They won't talk about it, but they'll feel it everywhere. It'll show in the way they pause at a place you once took them to, in the way a song hits harder than it used to, in the silence after a laugh that doesn't last, in the awkwardness when someone asks them, "Hey, what happened to that person who really cared about you?" And they'll lie, they'll shrug. Things changed. Number. They changed. Or maybe they didn't change at all. Maybe they just finally showed who they really were. See, people don't always break you with knives or fire. Sometimes they break you with silence, with distance, with inconsistency. And by the time you realize how much of yourself you gave to someone who never deserved it, you've already emptied your soul trying to keep something alive that they were slowly killing. That's what they don't see. They think silence is easy, but the quiet you gave them, that came after a storm of chaos, of nights where you cried into a pillow, of days where you begged God to take the feeling away. So when you finally went quiet, it wasn't weakness, it was warrior strength. You didn't leave because you didn't care. You left because you finally accepted that your presence wasn't being cherished. You left because you got tired of screaming your worth into ears that only wanted to hear lies. You left because every time you forgave, they gave you another reason to regret it. That kind of peace, that kind of final silence. It doesn't come easy. It's earned through pain, through long nights, through heartbreaks that taught you to stop proving and start protecting. And now you walk with a different energy, colder, sharper, not bitter, just aware. You no longer entertain what drains you. You no longer fight for places that make you question your worth. You've outgrown the begging, the explaining, the hoping. Now you disappear. No closure, no warnings, just gone. And don't worry, fate has a cruel way of playing things back. You won't need revenge. Life will remind them, in flashes, in dreams, in every situation where they need someone real and get someone fake. In every moment they wish they could reach out, but no, they can't. That's the price of playing with something pure. They don't lose you once, they lose you over and over. Every time life gets hard and you're not there. Every time someone lies to them and they remember you never did. Every time they laugh and it feels empty because it's not your laugh they're hearing anymore. That's the punishment. That's what makes them miss you. Not just once, but forever. And you just keep building, quietly, relentlessly. Let your success speak. Let your silence echo. Let your glow-up be the answer to every unasked question. You don't owe them your pain. You don't owe them your reaction. You owe yourself peace. The kind you never had while you were trying to save someone who didn't even know they needed saving. And when the day comes, and it will, when they try to circle back, when they drop the, "Hey, how have you been?" text, or like an old post out of nowhere, don't respond. Don't reopen what nearly destroyed you. Let them sit in it. Let the silence speak louder than words ever could. Because they had their chance. They had you. The you that cared too much, gave too much, stayed too long. And now that you is gone, evolved, healed, scarred but wiser. And that version is no longer available. Not to them, not ever again. That's not being heartless. That's being done. So when they miss you, and trust me, they will, let them scream into the void you left. Let them choke on the silence they created. But you stay quiet, stay gone, stay building. Because nothing hurts more than losing something you can't replace. And you, my friend, were never meant to be replaceable. They'll miss the little things first, the way you remembered their smallest details. How you noticed when their voice changed, how you asked twice when they said, "I'm fine." How you showed up, not when it was easy, but when it was inconvenient. That kind of care, it's not common, it's sacred. But people don't recognize sacred when they're too busy chasing what sparkles loudest. They forget that gold don't shout, that diamonds don't beg to be seen. So they walk away thinking they'll find it again, that someone else will treat them with that same gentle intensity. They won't. Because love like yours comes once. Not because it's rare by nature, but because people ruin it before they realize what they had. And by the time they do, you've grown too much to fit back into the space they kept you in. You've become too solid for their shaky world. See, the truth is, they didn't leave because you weren't enough. They left because your presence exposed their lack. Your loyalty highlighted their disloyalty. Your consistency made their flakiness stand out. You showed them what accountability looked like, and it scared them. Because it's easier to run to something meaningless than to stand beside something that demands growth. You didn't lose them. They lost themselves trying to match your energy and couldn't keep up. So they took the easy route, distancing, ghosting, blaming, avoiding. But now they feel the absence. And not just emotionally, physically. Because once someone's spirit touches you right, their silence echoes in your bones. They remember you through every argument with someone else who doesn't get them. Through every night, they lay next to someone who doesn't see them like you did. That's the punishment. They have to live with the constant comparison to someone who is real. You want to make them miss you? Let them experience the world without your light. Let them roam the streets of fake affection and shallow talk. Let them taste the difference between real connection and transactional attention. They'll learn. Slowly, painfully, regretfully. And every lesson will lead back to you. The one they dismissed. The one they thought would always be around. The one who was ready to give them the world, but only asked for truth in return. And now that truth stings because it's no longer available. They pushed it away, and life doesn't rewind. And if they try to return, with apologies dressed in nostalgia, with soft words and softer lies, don't flinch, don't melt. Remember the silence. Remember the way your messages went unanswered, the way you cried yourself to sleep while they were busy being entertained, the way they made you feel like too much while giving you less than scraps. Don't forget the nights that broke you just because the mornings got lonely. You don't owe them your reopening. Healing doesn't mean you're weak enough to let history repeat itself. It means you're strong enough to shut the door and keep it shut. Let your absence teach what your presence could never prove. Because some people don't value peace until they've lived in chaos. Some don't respect honesty until they're drowning in lies. And some don't understand love until they meet someone incapable of giving it. Then they realize what you were. Not just a person, not just a partner, a mirror, a reflection of what they lacked, a reminder of what they'll never find again. So walk quietly, proudly, without announcement. Let them miss you in places they thought they'd be happiest without you. Let them scroll. Let them replay. Let them wonder if they were ever enough for someone like you. And let that question echo forever. Not because you're cruel, but because you finally loved yourself enough to stop handing your heart to people who treat it like it's replaceable. And that right there, that silence, that disappearance, that peace, that's how legends are remembered. You know what's colder than a slammed door? A door left wide open with no one behind it. That's what they feel now. They go back to the places where you once existed, and all they find is emptiness. No arguments, no noise, no chaos, just silence that wraps around their throat like guilt. They thought you'd always be there. They thought you were bluffing. They thought your love came with unlimited chances. But now the line's dead. The seat's cold. The energy's shifted. That constant source of love they once took for granted, it's gone. And what's left is not you. It's a void, a reminder, a warning. And trust me, they feel it. They feel it when they're laughing with people who don't ask how their soul is. When they post for attention but feel more invisible than ever. When they try to sleep and your silence whispers louder than any memory they try to bury. You didn't leave to hurt them. That's what they'll never understand. You left to protect yourself. Because being real in a fake connection is suicide. You were giving life to something that was already rotting. And for what? For someone who couldn't even meet you halfway? Nah. That's not love. That's a slow death. So you walked, not out of spite, but out of survival. And now they sit with the version of you they created in their head. Bitter, cold, heartless. But the truth? The real truth? They never met the heartless version. That version was born the day you stopped explaining yourself. The day you realized your love wasn't meant to be begged for. The day you looked at yourself and said, I'm not going to keep setting myself on fire just to keep someone else warm. And maybe they'll never say it out loud, but they know it now. You were different. You were real. You didn't play the game. You didn't pretend. You gave raw love. Love that had no conditions, no manipulations, no scoreboard. And instead of watering it, they set it on fire. They thought something that deep would wait, that someone that loyal would come back if they just snapped their fingers. But you didn't. You disappeared. You got quiet. And that silence, it's the loudest thing they've ever heard. Let them drown in it. Let them try to laugh over it. Let them replace you 100 times and still come up short. Because when you were in their life, they were rich and didn't even know it. Now they're starving, surrounded by attention, but lacking connection. And the worst part? They know they did it to themselves. That guilt, that's forever. And you don't need to lift a finger. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to prove your worth. Just keep moving. Keep leveling up. Keep healing in silence. Because the real punishment is becoming unreachable. You want to make them miss you? Live like they never existed. Not out of hate, but because you finally realized your energy is too precious to waste on anyone who only showed up when it was easy. Let them miss the old you, the soft you, the available you, the one who answered even when they didn't deserve a response. Let that version stay dead, and let this new you, this wiser, colder, freer you, be the version they'll never get access to again. That's not being toxic. That's being done. That's what happens when someone who loved deeply gets tired of being the only one showing up. And now they get to live with the silence they created. And you get to live in peace. So keep walking, keep growing, and let the ghost of who you were haunt every decision they make, because they'll never forget you. That's not ego, that's reality. Real ones don't get replaced, they get remembered in regret. They'll smile for the world, but they'll bleed in silence when they remember the way you used to look at them like they were enough. You see, that's what they miss the most. Not the conversations, not the jokes, not even the love itself. It's the feeling of being seen, fully and deeply, without having to beg for it. You gave them something that the world never did. Validation, without conditions. You made them feel like they mattered in a world that constantly told them they didn't. And now, they walk through their days, surrounded by people who only care when it's convenient, who only love when it benefits them, who only listen when they're bored, and they crave that presence again, that quiet, loyal, unshakable energy you brought. But it's too late, because what they once had access to is now locked behind a door only you can open, and you lost the key on purpose. That's what makes your absence unbearable. Not because you left, but because you never made noise when you did. You didn't go around telling everyone what happened. You didn't drag their name through the mud. You didn't expose them. You didn't play the victim. You just disappeared with all your love, your energy, your soul. And now they're left with people who might look good on paper, but don't feel like you. You see, your presence was more than attention. It was depth, something they didn't know they needed until they drowned in shallow replacements. And now they replay every moment, wondering how something so powerful slipped through their fingers while they were too busy playing pretend. They'll miss you at the wrong times, in the wrong ways, for the wrong reasons. And that's the tragedy. They'll miss you when someone lies to them and they remember your honesty. They'll miss you when they feel alone in a room full of people and remember how you made them feel safe in silence. They'll miss you when they need help but can't call you. Not because you blocked them, no. Because you're not that person anymore. You're not the savior. You're not the shoulder. You're not the home they once found shelter in. You evolved. And evolution doesn't apologize for outgrowing the people who kept you small. But let's be clear, none of this came easy. Don't let them ever think you moved on without scars. You did your suffering. You battled your demons. You questioned yourself 1,000 times. You sat in your room wondering if they ever truly cared. You bit your tongue through pain they never even knew they caused. And still, you chose to heal, to let go, to stop answering questions they were never brave enough to ask. That's real power. Not silence from pride, but silence from growth. The kind of silence that comes after the storm. When the rage has passed, the tears have dried, and all that's left is wisdom. Now you walk differently. You don't offer pieces of yourself for free anymore. You don't try to prove your worth. You know your worth. And that kind of confidence, it rattles people, especially the ones who knew you when you were still learning to love yourself. Because now they see you shining from a distance, and they know deep down they were the reason you had to dim that light for so long. They were the reason you questioned your enoughness, and now they're the reason they can't access you. That's the irony. They broke you trying to keep you close, and now they can't even reach the healed version, the very version they created with their absence. So let them miss you, let them ache, let them wonder if there's still a way back, and let the answer always be the same: no. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to never go back to the place that taught you how to suffer quietly. Let them live with that. And the saddest part is, they'll try to replace you, but they'll never match you. They'll find someone who laughs louder, who posts more, who plays the part better, someone who's all over their timeline, someone who gives them attention, someone who keeps it light, fun, temporary. But in the back of their mind, they'll feel the difference. The way this new person doesn't look into their soul the way you did. The way the silence between conversations feels awkward now, not peaceful. The way a touch doesn't feel like home anymore. It feels like a performance, because you can't fake depth. You can't recreate authenticity. And while they may pretend to be happy, while they might even convince others they've moved on, deep down, they know. They downgraded. You gave them something they didn't know they needed until they lost it. A connection that wasn't built on convenience, but on truth. Something that didn't bend with the weather or fade with distance. Something built slowly, painfully through effort, sacrifice, presence, and they destroyed it trying to chase shortcuts, trying to find love that didn't ask for growth. But now, they see. They see it every time they're with someone who can't handle their chaos, someone who won't stay during the storm, someone who gives up when it gets uncomfortable. And in those moments, your name becomes more than a memory. It becomes a lesson, a reminder of what real used to feel like. But let them keep searching. Let them wear out their soul trying to fill the void. Because the truth is, they weren't ready for the kind of love you offered. Not everyone is built to handle something solid. It takes maturity, accountability, courage, things they didn't have. So they traded something rare for something easy. And now they choke on their own choices. That's how karma works. It doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it just lets you sit with what you settled for. And they settled. Don't ever forget that. They settled for less. They chose less. While you were busy trying to love them through every scar, they were entertaining distractions, mistaking attention for affection. But don't get bitter. Don't let their mistakes turn your heart cold. You're not them. You don't ghost. You don't play games. You don't run when it gets hard. You're built different. Your love is built different. So protect it. Guard it like the treasure it is. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because not everyone deserves front row access to a soul like yours. Especially not the ones who had the best seat and still complained about the view. You see, when people say, "I miss you," they're not always talking about you. They're talking about what they felt when they were with you. The peace, the understanding, the sense of being seen. And that's what they crave again. But it's too late. Because now you've become someone else. Someone stronger. Someone who no longer lowers themselves just to keep someone comfortable. Someone who doesn't explain their silence. Because silence is the explanation. Let that silence echo. Let it teach. Let it remind. And let it hurt. Because you were a lesson disguised as a blessing. And they failed the test. So when they remember you, and they will, let them remember the version of you that loved them fully, deeply, purely. Let them remember the eyes that saw through their darkness and stayed. Let them remember the voice that calmed storms, and let them feel the weight of knowing they'll never find it again. That's how you make them miss you, not with revenge, not with noise, with absence.